Ostrogoths. Who are they and how did they emerge in Europe? They are first referenced by Herodotus as Scythians, but it should be noted that Herodotus perhaps designated the Goths as Scythians simply because they lived in the regions surrounding the Black Sea, traditionally Scythian territory. The primary source on Gothic history is Jordanes' work Getica, which presents a half-mythic version of this people's story. Jordanes' work was a distillation and summary of a much larger work, now lost, by Cassiodorus, a Roman official who served in the court of the Gothic king Theodoric the Great. According to Jordanes, the Goths are a Germanic people whose origins, though partly obscured by legend, are believed to lie in the southern Scandinavia, particularly the island of Gotland and parts of modern Sweden. The Goths migrated from Sanja, believed to be Scandinavia, under a legendary king named Beric, eventually crossing the Baltic Sea and settling along the southern coast, notably in a region around the Vistula River in present-day Poland. Historians such as Peter Heather have identified Goth Sanja with Gdansk in modern Poland, and this theory is generally supported by archaeological evidence. By the 1st and 2nd century AD, archaeological cultures such as the Wilbar culture began to emerge in this region. These cultures are associated with early Goths and show a transition from Scandinavian traditions toward Central European influences. Around the 3rd century AD, a large segment of the Gothic population moved southeast toward the Black Sea region, replacing or integrating with the Zarubinsky culture and giving rise to the Cherniakov culture. This area, spanning parts of modern Ukraine and Romania, would become the heartland of Gothic power and expansion. It was during this time that the Goths split into two main groups, the Tervings, later known as Visigoths, and the Gruthungs, later known as the Ostrogoths. A 4th century Roman historian, Ammianus Marcellinus, first mentions this division. These names are likely tribal or dynastic designations, rather than formal ethnic boundaries. The Roman historian Tacitus, who first encountered the Goths in Germany, described them as a cohesive race of Germanic people, indigenous to their land, who were fierce fighters. The Grotthungi eventually evolved into what we know as the Ostrogoths. The term Ostrogoth itself likely means Eastern Goth, and was later used by Roman writers to differentiate them from the Visigoths or Western Goths. In the late 4th century, both the Visigoths and Ostrogoths faced immense pressure from the expanding Hunnic Empire. Around 375 AD, the Huns invaded Gothic territories north of the Black Sea, leading to the famous flight of the Visigoths across the Danube into Roman territory, a migration that culminated in the Battle of Adrianople in 378 AD. The Ostrogoths, in contrast, were subjugated by the Huns and integrated into their military confederation. For decades they served as feudality and client people under Hunnic rulers, including Attila the Hun. Although the Ostrogoths lost political autonomy, they retained a distinct ethnic identity. Under the Huns, they became part of a vast, multicultural empire composed of Germanic, Iranian, Slavic, and other nomadic elements. The Ostrogoths were renowned for their heavy cavalry and were frequently deployed in the Hunnic campaigns, including the invasions of the Eastern Roman Empire and Gaul. One notable Ostrogothic figure from this period was Valamir, a leader of the Amal dynasty, who cooperated with Attila but also maintained some independence, which later helped facilitate the reassertion of Ostrogothic autonomy. The turning point came with Attila's death in 453 AD, which triggered a civil war among his sons, and where a coalition of Germanic tribes, including Ostrogoths, defeated the Huns and cast off their yoke. After liberation, the Ostrogoths settled in the Pannonian Basin in modern-day Hungary, where they became a powerful federated people of the Eastern Roman or Byzantine Empire. They were granted land in exchange for military service, but tensions remained high due to Ostrogothic ambitions for independence and more favorable status. This period saw the rise of Theodoric the Amel, later known as Theodoric the Great. Born around 454 AD, Theodoric was sent as a hostage to Constantinople in his youth, where he was educated in Roman culture and politics. Upon his return, he became the king of Ostrogoths around 471 AD. By the late 5th century, Italy had become unstable. Odoacer, a Germanic general who had deposed the last Western Roman emperor in 476 AD, ruled Italy as king, but he posed a challenge to Emperor Zeno of Byzantium. To eliminate Odoacer and solve the Ostrogothic problem, Zeno devised a strategic solution. He commissioned Theodoric to invade Italy, promising him rule over the peninsula if he succeeded. In 488 AD, Theodoric led the Ostrogoths across the Alps into Italy. His campaign unfolded over 5 years and eventually were successful. Following his victory, Theodoric established the Ostrogothic kingdom of Italy with Ravenna as its capital. His rule marked a high point in post-Roman governance in the West, with a dual Italian and Gothic ruling administration, religious tolerance, economic and cultural recovery. After Theodoric's death in 526 AD, the Ostrogothic kingdom weakened under internal strife and external pressure. His successors lacked his authority and the kingdom became vulnerable. By 555 AD, the Byzantine Emperor Justinian I launched the Gothic War to reclaim Italy. After nearly 2 decades of warfare, the Ostrogoths were defeated in 553 AD, and Italy was reincorporated into the Byzantine Empire.